And we know you used to serve in Trump administration as well for
Mhm.
1 or 2 months.
Mhm.
What's that experience, and why you decided to leave?
Well, I left in part because it's expected that an assistant secretary will step down when a new administration comes in. So that wasn't a surprise. I stayed on for 2 months in order to be as helpful as I could and to reduce the sense of disruption that many of our Asian partners were experiencing uh, after the election and then the inauguration. Look, every new administration struggles to get its what's called its sea legs to figure out sort of how to get organized and to bring people together to fill these positions, and that's a function of the way our system works. I think one of the things that was very different about the Trump administration was that they had not used the transition from the day of the election, November 6th, to the day of the inauguration of the president, the following January 20th, to prepare a detailed plan of action starting on day 1, day 2, day 3. So the administration was very slow to get organized. It certainly was comprised of a lot of people who came to Washington feeling like they were revolutionaries. They were an insurgency that was going to change things. And some things in Washington can be changed and need to be changed. But some things like this, the strong, healthy institutions of the government, don't change. They will serve whoever is elected president. So one takeaway for me was that it was clear that the Trump administration was going to take a lot of time to get going. Now a year has passed. A lot of what we saw in year one was in reference to mistakes that previous presidents, especially President Obama, had made. We heard a lot from President Trump about this was wrong, that was wrong, etc. This is somebody else's fault. Well, now we're in year two, and there's a clear expectation on the part of civil society in the U.S. and the political system that the administration now is standing on its own 2 feet, and that it is going to have to deliver the results that it's been promising.
Have you ever interacted with President Trump?
No.
Okay, right. Okay. So last question would be DPRK.
Mhm.
There is a latest development. How do you see this? What happened after the Winter Olympic?
Well, I think you have to begin on January 1st in the New Year's statement in which Kim Jong-un signaled that he was open to something joint Olympic, inter-Korean dialogue, etc. He sounded a somewhat hopeful note there. And what we've seen since then is an outgrowth of that initial signal. I think then it's a good idea to take a big step backwards and look historically at the broader picture. We can see a familiar pattern, I think. The pattern under Kim Jong-il and even Kim Il-sung had been to ramp up international anxiety, to create tensions, to generate a threat. And when people were good and worried, then to make some kind of signal that maybe North Korea would be willing to de-escalate. Maybe things could get better. Typically then, the North Koreans would experiment, pose a few tests to see what were people willing to give North Korea in exchange for stopping its bad behavior. It's really a kind of a blackmail in a way. And North Korea in the past had been able to get significant concessions. When ultimately North Korea's asking price went up and up and up, and it didn't deliver on the things that the rest of the world was asking, then North Korea would go back to an escalation cycle. And you had this alternating wave of provocation and conciliation, or a charm offensive. So it's too early to say, but you can't rule out the possibility that even though Kim Jong-un has spent the last 5 or 6 years in a steady, provocative, escalatory phase and hasn't alternated, maybe now this is his shift to the phase in which he's going to see what the world is prepared to give him in exchange for a reduction of tensions. Well, one problem is that merely lowering the temperature, even though we want that, isn't good enough when you're dealing with a North Korea that now appears to have both nuclear weapons, but also ballistic missiles that can successfully deliver them. When you have a 6-year stretch in which the leader, the sole leader of North Korea, has insisted over and over and over again that he will not relinquish his nuclear sword and shield, that China, the United States, and others have just got to accept that and to deal with him like a nuclear power, like a superpower. Neither China nor the United States, nor South Korea, nor Japan are willing to abandon the UN Security Council resolutions. We're not willing to abandon the NPT. We're not willing to legitimize North Korea's nuclear program. China, US, ROK, Japan, we are all irrevocably committed to the goal of complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. If Kim Jong-un gets to the point, or has gotten to the point, where he recognizes that his pursuit of nuclear weapons and missiles is a dead end, and that he has nowhere to go except backwards, if that were to happen, he would find willing partners, I know, in the US, in South Korea, in China, and elsewhere. But we have so much evidence in the track record of North Korean behavior that I think we all are justified in being cautious, if not skeptical. And we will have to see much more concrete evidence from North Korea, not interpreted through South Korea or others, and not just promises and not just words, but genuine action, that before we accept as credible any claim that North Korea is in fact willing to denuclearize. Now we have to be careful, because it's no better to be cynical than it is to be naive. If there's an opportunity here that may allow the South Koreans in the first instance to begin exploratory talks with the North Koreans, we need to put that to the test. But none of us should be tricked. None of us should be so innocent as to merely take North Korea at its word. After all that it has done and this pattern and decades of complete defiance of China, of the U.S., of international law, North Korea is going to have to work hard to earn even a moderate level of trust from the rest of the world.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Hey,
Thank
it's
you.
great to see you.
Let's do a